Hey there, sister. Welcome back to the Girl Out of Order podcast. You have shown up at exactly the right time to get exactly the right message you need to hear. And this girl is so on fire today because this is our final installment of the releasing portion of season 1 of 2026 Girl Out of Order. And we are closing out this part of season 1 with clarity and focus and freedom. And I am so excited to share this message with you today because I believe and have seen with my own eyes in my life and the lives of the women I work with and the women I've raised that if you apply the truths in this episode, your life, girl, it's going to transform. Before I dive in, though, I wanted to remind you that Girl Out of Order every week is live on, not live, but it's on YouTube. So you can watch the podcast. You can see my eyes. You can see the love that I have for you. And maybe it just gives you a little bit more connection to the message. But if you would please hit subscribe, help us grow our YouTube channel. It's going to be expanding over the next month because we are going to bring in so much more content. I can't wait. I've got some guests lined up, but also just some daily content that is going to help you transform your life by applying the truths that we teach and live out at Girl Out of Order. So hit subscribe on YouTube. Oh boy, but back to today's episode. So I was thinking about this episode and how to close out the releasing section of season 1 of the Girl Out of Order podcast in 2026. And here's what we're going to do today. We are going back to the basics. We are going back to the genesis of why I started Girl Out of Order to begin with. Because if we don't get this part right, everything we build is building on a faultier foundation than we deserve. I started Girl Out of Order in 2021 in April out of a fierce awareness, a deep desire to stop myself and the people I love from contorting themselves to fit a mold they were never designed to live within. And it was such a burning passion for me. And it has carried me through years of doing this podcast and moments when I wanted to cry, I wanted to quit, I took breaks because I keep coming back to this truth that if we do not release the stories that are projected upon us, the expectations we never chose for ourselves, our lives will forever be stunted and our impact will be blunted. If we get this right, sisters, if we claim the freedom that exists for us when we stop living inside stories that have been projected upon us, it's game freaking on. And so today we are going back to the basics because this is going to launch us into the reclaiming section of this season of the Girl Out of Order podcast. But more importantly, this is going to not project us, that's the wrong word. I used the word we're trying to get rid of. This is going to launch us into this elevated next level life that we all are building and feel called to feel called to. Boy, I'm sorry. I'm going to get to the point of my sentence. You can see I'm so excited. I'm tripping over my own tongue. But this is a come along with me real podcast, so I don't edit out my bloopers. This is just who I am. But what I'm trying to say, and I'm going to say it in less words, is if we get this right, if we make this a habit of releasing the projections that others have placed upon us, the freedom that awaits is going to take us to our next level. So before we begin, sisters, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm doing this right along with you. I'm just going to invite you to slow down for just a moment. Close your eyes. Unless you're driving, please don't close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep breath. Just drop your shoulders. Let your beautiful body settle in because today's episode, it's not about pushing forward. It's about settling something down. If you've been feeling a quiet restlessness I would invite you to consider whether or not that restlessness is coming from you living inside projected stories that you didn't choose or you want to release. Because, like I said, when I started Girl Out of Order, this was my burning passion. Let me tell you where it came from. And I'm sorry, I'm still struggling with a little bit of a cold. So if you hear me sniffle, again, love me where I'm at because we are real here at Girl Out of Order. But when I started this podcast, I was coming out of a couple decades of being deeply involved in a church community that I loved so much. And that church community gave me very specific, compressed ideas of what a woman should be, how she should live, what she should not do, what she should do, and when she should speak and when she should not. That's a lot of shoulds. And what that did is it should all over my fulfillment and my confidence and my self-acceptance. And so when I came to the Girl Out of Order podcast and I created this, I wasn't just fired up, I was exhausted. I was so drained of energy and vitality from trying to be the kind of woman I was never designed to be. It doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make the women who fit that mold in any way, shape, or form inadequate, or nor am I saying that they're living unfulfilling lives. But for me, I was never designed to be that quiet, submissive, gentle-spirited woman. That's not who I was designed for. I always joke around that when I came off the assembly line in heaven, God and Jesus got together and went, oh boy, this is going to be fun, because I was designed to be fire. I was designed to be wood. I was designed to live a big, full, beautiful life. And what I realized is that I was going to stop apologizing for wanting that life. So when we release things in our lives, it doesn't have to be some dramatic moment that happens in time. For me, it was a slow erosion of my contentment. It was a slow erosion of my confidence. It was a slow erosion of my feeling of belonging. I was always feeling outside, but yet feeling trapped within those stories and within those expectations that didn't belong to me. Can you relate? Whether it's the church, whether it's your parents, whether it's a boss, your spouse, or even your own trauma-based expectations of what you should be. Sometimes those projections come from our kids. Wherever the genesis of this projection might come from, you have to get honest about it if you want to be able to release it. So I want to set the stage for what we're going to talk about. And in order to do that, we need to name it. We're going to talk about these stories that we have been living inside of these stories. We're going to talk about what those are and how to let them go. And what those stories are often are projections put upon us by others, whether it be other people or institutions. It doesn't matter where they came from. The fact is, they're being projected on our life, and they're becoming the goggles, the prism through which we view our worth. And if those stories are not ours, they're going to squelch who we truly are. So let's talk about that word, projections. It's kind of a popular word. In fact, I just noticed as I was preparing for this episode that somebody that I follow is talking about the same thing. And I really think that there's an awakening and awareness in women that we are so done living inside stories that are not ours. So projections can be a bit of a buzzword, right? Like, you know how words become trending, and maybe projections is a trending word. I don't really know. I don't pay attention to trends. But what I can tell you is that it's important to understand what they are and how they uniquely show up in the life of a woman if we're going to get rid of them and start living in the freedom we deserve. So at the core, here's what projections are. They are, and listen to these words, it's important. They are unexamined beliefs, fears, expectations, or limitations that one person places on another and then treats them as true. The most important word in that entire sentence is unexamined. Because oftentimes people tell us how we're supposed to live and they teach it as gospel truth without considering the person they're talking to or taking the time to understand our uniqueness. You see, these projections, they're not always spoken harshly. They're not coming down as judgments necessarily. Often they're delivered casually, sometimes lovingly. Often they're repeatedly said. And more often than not, they're by people in authority or, listen to this, emotional proximity. People that you care about, people that you value, that you want to value you, tell you you should be a certain way when you feel completely different. A projection quietly communicates, this, sister, is who you are. This is what's acceptable. This is what women like you do and don't do. For me in the church, I was told I was too opinionated. I was too much of a leader. I needed to calm down and be quiet and listen more and then obey what my husband said. That's just not how we roll in the Gale family. That's not how our dynamic was. But I was told that I was broken. I was told that I was sinful. And I was told that I didn't measure up. And it was devastating to my self-worth, to my confidence. And I had so much anxiety because every day I got up and tried to meet expectations that were never designed for me. And women in particular, we struggle with projections way differently than men. And it's not because we're weak. It's because we have been conditioned to be dialed into what other people think of us. From a young age, girls are taught to read the room, manage your emotional tone, anticipate reactions, and for goodness sakes, be agreeable. Don't cause problems. Don't make waves. What this trains girls to do, and I'm going to be very honest, I trained this into my own daughters because at the time I was raising them, I was trying to fit this mold in this church that I just wasn't designed for. So I chiseled my edges. I softened my stance, and I became a smaller, meeker version of Christine. And it did not serve me or my daughters well. We condition ourselves to externalize authority and give other people permission to tell us who we are. Instead of asking, what do I want? Women are often conditioned to ask, how will this be received? One of my daughters in particular is really struggling with this, and it breaks my heart because I know where it's come from and I know where it's perpetuated. She's always worried about what other people think of her as opposed to just living as her authentic self. I know she's going to get freedom because we're talking about it and we're working through it and we're making her, you're giving her the tools. We're not making her because that would be a projection. We're giving her the tools that she needs to start being curious and inquiring about these beliefs that she has. Where did they come from? Are they really mine? Or have they been projected onto me, changing the reality of who I am? Because you think about a projector. I don't know how old you are, but I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and we had projectors at school where the teacher would lay something on the projector and then lay something over it that would change what's projected on the screen. And that, my sisters, is what projections are. There's the reality of who you are, and there's these projections laid over you that then creates a vision of a woman you just may not even recognize, but you feel guilty if you don't live into that person. When projections come from authority figures like parents, pastors, doctors, bosses, they carry disproportionate weight. So I want you to get curious and ask yourself, where did this belief come from that I need to be this way or that way, or don't do this, or don't say that, or say this, go there, dress like this? Where did that come from? Because if it's come from somebody in even higher authority figure, it may be a little bit more deeply rooted, and you're going to have to put your garden gloves on and dig deep in those roots to get those projections out of your life and get the freedom that you need. Because here's what's true. The body holds your story, sister. Projections they're not just in your mind. They are often in your bodies. Have you ever had a feeling where you've said something or done something that was outside of the expectations for your life, and you felt like a sickness in your stomach, or butterflies, or panic, or you become flushed? That's because our body holds the memory of the projections that have been placed upon our lives. The guilt tightens your chest. Obligation constricts your throat. Fear lives in your gut, and resentment, sister, shows up in exhaustion. Because when I started Girl Out of Order, I was exhausted, and I was resentful of the years I lost because I tried to fit into a mold I was never designed for, because so many people in authority, or people I loved, put these expectations on me, and I put the goggles on willingly, sister. I wasn't abused, but I was unaware. And I was sleepwalking through my life, and I was exhausted. And here's what's interesting. This may not apply to you, but maybe it does. Maybe you're like me and you're in midlife, and it starts to change, girl. I'm telling you, when I hit my late 40s, and particularly when I hit 50, I became a woman who no longer gave a hoot what other people thought of me, because I was done. I was finished living like a woman that I wasn't. Living like a shadow of who I knew I was and could become if I could break out of these projections placed upon me. Something happens in midlife. It disrupts your performance, your energies shift, your tolerance decreases. And here's what's awesome about midlife. Your authenticity, sisters, becomes non-freaking negotiable. Non-negotiable. I'm going to live as who I am. I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to be brash. I'm not going to be in your face. I'm just going to excise myself from situations that don't help me flourish. Because identities that once helped women survive, myself included, now begin in midlife to feel heavy. Not because we are failing or our capacity has decreased, but because those identities were never meant to be permanent, especially if they never actually fit who we are and are incongruent with the values we hold most dear. Because midlife does not create the problem, it reveals the problem. And then we become less tolerant of inauthentic living. So how does this shift? Well, releasing projections does not mean you have to reject your family or your church or burn your life down. Let me make that very clear. Just because my choice was to remove myself from that particular church community does not mean I'm giving you a prescription to do that for you. Please hear me loud and clear. I love what the church gave me. I am so grateful for the people there, and I admire them deeply. They're living beautiful lives, and I wouldn't change that for them. That's incredible. And what is also true is it didn't align with me any longer. And just because it didn't align with me doesn't mean that you have to somehow excise yourself from your life. That is not what I'm saying. But in order for you to release these projections, you do need to learn how to trust yourself, to know what's true for you and release what's not. That means you need to trust your inner knowing. It's not rebellion, it's maturity. A projection, when someone hands you a narrative that keeps you small, it becomes a cage that prevents you from having the impact that your beautiful life can have on yourself and on others and on the world at large. For heaven's sakes, We need you. So when you start organizing yourself around a narrative that doesn't fit you, you end up with a life that isn't what you deserve. Let's put it that way. So what are we going to do about it? Like, how are we going to start releasing? How are we going to start releasing that? Well, we're going to start releasing it by waking up. Awareness is the first step. Awareness is where it all starts to change. Because when you start becoming aware of the projections placed in your life, you're going to walk up to that projector, like I was talking about, the 70s and 80s, and you're going to grab that, whatever that was called, microfiche. I don't even know what it was called, but you're going to grab that projection and you're going to remove it. And then you're going to shine forth because you're going to know who you are and you're going to understand what no longer serves you and that doesn't belong to you. You're going to let it go. So you got to identify, first step, you got to identify the stories you're living within. When you identify the story that you're living within, nothing can stop you because you're waking up. And then the second step, and this is important, is you need to name the source of those projections. Who handed you that story, sister? Who told you that good girls don't make waves? Who told you that a real woman never says no to her man? Who told you that if you dress like that, you can expect men to look at you as a sexual object? Where did that come from? When you identify the source, here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. Identifying the source does not mean you need to then remove people from your life or be bitter or resentful towards the people that gave you that projection, because here's what I've come to know in the last couple years in particular. They did the best they freaking could. Most people are doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. This is particularly true when it comes to my parents, my mom in particular. I had such a difficult relationship with my mom. Yes, she had some mental illness, but that wasn't it. It was just that we butted heads and I just resented her for doing things that she did and not doing things I wished she'd done. But what I have come to understand since her death in 2023 and the work that I've done and the awareness that I've gained is that my mom did the best that she could. So naming the source, the purpose of doing that is so that you become aware and perhaps can be better protected when those messages come in and those projections show up again. You can say, I appreciate that you're doing the best you can, but that's not for me. And you let it fall away because you understand the source. Now, step 3, this is really important with a projection. So let's say the projection is good girls don't make waves. What I want you to do in the next week, just be aware and question the authority of that projection. Is that projection universally true, or is it someone else's fear? Like the projection of good girls don't make waves. Maybe that came from your mother's fear that you wouldn't be able to be successful, that you wouldn't have a successful marriage. I don't know. I'm sort of spitballing here. Whatever the projection is, I want you to question whether or not it's actually true. Can you be 100% certain that that projection is true? And if it's not true, understand the authority around it. Where did it come from? Because when you understand projections and you understand that they're not true, you can see that here's what projections actually are. They're opinions. Often projections are just somebody else's opinion placed upon you as if it's true. And if you can knock down the truth of that projection, the freedom is right there for you, sister. And that's where we go to step 4. You got to release it. You got to release it. Now, I understand that that might sound simple, but if you're paying attention, if you're not living under a rock, you know that Mel Robbins wrote a book called Let Them. And the premise of the book and the beautiful simplicity and power in that statement is that intentional choice to let others act, do, be, think, however they want to. You let them do it over there. You let them think what they want. You let them believe what is true for them. And you release that projection because it's not yours to hold. It's like you're holding on to something that you don't have a right to, that you don't have an entitlement to. It's not yours. Let it go. Give it back to the person who put it upon you. Do it lovingly, do it with respect. And you can say something as simple, that may be true for you and I can respect that, but that's not true for me. I will tell people that I'm coaching or working with, here's what I want to observe. If it's not true for you, let it fall away. I heard that years ago from a woman that I was in a group with. And I was like, let it fall away. What a beautiful, grace-filled way of not accepting something that it's not true for me. Just let it fall away. It's not that you have to get aggressive or argumentative. Just let it fall away. Let that projection sit out there, but let it sit over there. Take it off of your own life and just let it sit over there for the person who might believe that that's true. And step 5, last one. I usually only do 3 steps, but we got 5 and I'm going to recap them here in just a minute. Step 5, choose a truer statement for yourself. Choose a truer, more beautiful projection and put that beautiful thing on yourself. That truer statement and that one can be, you know what? Good girls change the freaking world. Do you see how different that is? Good girls don't make waves. Good girls change the world. Good girls honor themselves. Good girls love who they are and give grace and love to others. Whatever it might be, flip the script. You don't just have to let it go. Replace it. Put it off and then put something more beautiful and empowering on you. So the 5 steps: identify the story, identify that projection. Number 2, name the source. Where did that even freaking come from? Wake up to it. Question whether or not it's true. Is it true? Is it true? Maybe if it's true, then you might need to consider it's not a projection. If it isn't true, let it go. Step 4, release it. Let them believe it, let them think it, and then let yourself. So it's not just let them, but let me live true to my life. Let me live in freedom from your projections. Number 5, choose a truer statement. Choose a truer statement. Replace the one that doesn't fit you, and then let yourself step into a truer statement. Sister, you can tell I'm so on fire. I am so passionate about women not contorting themselves to fit a mold they were never designed for. You are not an acrobat in a circus bending her limbs to fit into this clear box, and we can all see how she does it. If you've ever been to a circus, you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. If not, please look it up on YouTube, because it is the perfect metaphor for what women do when they allow projections to live over their lives and they constrict themselves into stories that were never theirs. So as we close the releasing section of season 1, I want to honor you. I'm honoring myself. This has been such a powerful few weeks of just releasing. It's not passive. Releasing is active. It's honest and it's brave and it's deeply, deeply self-respecting. And today, what I want to help you do is shift your mindset in the way that you show up for your life. Releasing projections that have been placed upon you. There's freedom there. It's laying down identities, sister, that maybe they helped you survive for a time. I know for me, when I was living in that church community, that identity, it was very helpful for me and I needed it at the time, but then it became a prison. It no longer is where I live. And so I'm releasing those projections. They were never true. And they're most definitely not true for me. So I am letting them believe what they believe, and I am letting myself live congruent with who I know myself to be. If this season has felt quiet, emotional, or disorienting for you, guess what? Nothing has gone wrong. And when I say season, I mean season of your life. I don't necessarily mean the season of Girl Out of Order podcast, but the season of your life. Maybe you are in that releasing. You're just clearing space. You're making space for what's next. And guess what's next on the Girl Out of Order podcast? We are going into the reclaiming season. It's time for reclamation. I don't know why I made that word up, but just go with it. It is about reclaiming who you are, because I'm telling you, the next episode is coming out on the first day of the year of the fire horse. I'm so excited about the timing of this. I've never been into the animals like the year of the snake and all that. It's never really been something that's piqued my curiosity, but the year of the fire horse absolutely has. And it is the perfect kickoff for our reclamation season. And so please tune in next week as we start the second third of our season 1 of the Girl Out of Order podcast in 2026. We are going to start reclaiming our voice. We're going to start reclaiming our standards. We're going to reclaim our joy. Sisters, you are going to reclaim authority over your own life. Here's the great news. You're not behind. You're not too late. You are right on time. And you are going to get clarity from this season. I can't wait to hear how this episode has impacted you. Please, please, please go on wherever you listen to our podcast. Leave us a written review. We love seeing how these have impacted you. And a DM me. You have all my information. You can find me. Let me know how this message is resonating with you and how you are showing up even more for your one wild and precious life. Keep being a girl out of order because the world needs what only you can provide. I can't wait to see you next time.